me, then I'll go. Thought that
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Coffee Time Live with your host, Lauren Lau, live from Armenia, Colombia. And now, here's Lauren.
Good morning. Welcome to the Grand Colombia channel. Welcome back to another Coffee Time Live. Sitting here in Armenia, Colombia. Blue skies, lots of white puffy clouds. Running about low 70s today. Howard, good morning. Greetings from Helsinki. No agua diente today. Mora. Buen dia. Good morning from Fort Lauderdale. So, I was able to sort out my problem with not being able to notify ahead of time and get the chat going ahead of time. Something I didn't realize. I couldn't find in any of the instructions. I actually stumbled upon it. That for all these years that I've been doing live videos, very often, depending on the circumstance, it would start up a whole nother stream key. And so I've got had a library of stream keys that was, I didn't count, page after page, probably 50 or 60 stream keys. And they were getting jumbled up. So, looks like I've got it solved. I went through and deleted everything, created one single stream key, and it's like, holy moly, Alfredo Hernandez. Excuse me, taking my breath away. Thank you so much. It's hugely appreciated. Oh, okay. Give me a minute. I'm verklempt. I'm choked up. Okay. So, wait, I still haven't recovered. Yeah. All right. Well, so I had a little surprise this week. I had a few things to, talk to you about this week. First is this t-shirt. And let me tell you about it. Let me look at this. These controls are actually working. So here I am, and I got a package. And I opened the box and then realized I should be putting this on video. You never know. So here we go. Now, many of you know Robert. He's a friend. He became a friend last year. He's made a lot of trips down here, spent a lot of time in Medellin as well. But we had something in common. We both watch a YouTube show called Good Mythical Morning. I don't know if you've ever watched it. I start my day with a cup of coffee about 6:30 in the morning and turn it on. It's about 15 minutes long. It's quite funny. A couple guys named Rhett and Link. And Robert decided to send me a Good Mythical Morning t-shirt. And it just, of course it's not the t-shirt. It's nice to know that people are thinking about you. And I really appreciated it. Of course, it's not $99.99, but, they say the thought that counts. Oh, okay. Now, what else did I do this week? Got my car going. And I'm still withholding something from you guys that we're within a week or two of me sharing the information, but it's just not quite time. But I do have my car, and I decided to go out and take it for a little test run. So I got a friend of mine, and we went and left the city, drove around, and let me show you that. Road to heaven. I wouldn't exactly call it diet food, but it was pretty delicious. Libby, good morning. Is he in a drone? No, I just had really long arms. It sits up on a mountain. Um, Now, I will get to some questions. I know everybody wants to know what's going on. You mentioned with the violence and like that. So we'll talk about that. But I wanted to, get you up to date what happened this week. And I actually have a little weather report. Now, this wasn't today. This was, 3 days ago, I think. And I see it once in a while, but not very often. And so we'll let it speak for itself. Check out this low-lying cloud. Look where this thing goes. Make no mistake, that's a cloud. I don't know if you can see it, but it's in the background. All the way over there, down in that valley. How cool is that? So, you notice there was the same music in all three of those clips. It's got me paranoid. Damn YouTube has me freaking out. Last week's Coffee Time, for those who watched it a day or two later, around the 44-minute mark, there's about 40 seconds or so of dead silence. That's because there was a background clip of some music that played for just a short bit. I caught it, turned it off. But the thing is, it was copyright-free music. It's music that, just like the one I just played, that you can play. Except somebody put a copyright claim on it. Anyway, there's companies out there doing that, whether they have rights to it or not. And YouTube just blindly, but in this case, they actually clipped it out. Now, what happens a lot of times, they'll actually take my video down. But in this case, they just automatically clipped it out, voice and all. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, we're going to go right to some questions. I'm especially thirsty this morning. I take it the sound's probably good. Looks like the video is real good. I have the new camera, and you're probably wondering why, this camera's working pretty good. Why have I been trying to get a second camera? And I'll tell you that. But I'm looking, and it says, the print's real small, but the color is bright green, which means I've got really good, excellent connection. So I think we might have this dialed in. Okay, why two cameras? When I have somebody here and they're on camera with me, for example, the last one where Alejandra sat next to me, the problem is we have to get really close, kind of sit on top. And as a matter of fact, one has to kind of sit in front of the other one. And it creates little issues with the camera focusing. You've all seen it. So what I want to do is have a second camera pointing on the other side of this table. This is not a desk. This is a big table. And there's a hole drilled in the middle of it for the monitor mounts. And I want to have the camera pointing to the other side. I have extra microphones so that they can kind of sit there, and I can split screen it and solve that problem. Plus, this camera has been acting up. As you know, it's been freezing. I thought it was the software. I'm more inclined to think it's the camera. And there's a scratch on it that I keep polishing, but for some reason it keeps coming back. And you guys, some of you with eagle eyes have noticed it. So I want to put this camera as a backup camera and as an interview camera, or, sharing studio camera, and just kind of solve that. You have to do that every so often. So, all right. So let's get, why exactly is that a problem to be so close to Alejandra? Well, it's pretty obvious, don't you think? All my other girlfriends, all these other female type girlfriends, aren't they going to get jealous? Yes, it is tough. I do suffer. Life isn't supposed to be this good. My entire life, I don't know if it's any different than others, but things will go along good, and then all of a sudden, the clouds crash, and you're on a roller coaster, and you're miserable, and it's just tearing your guts out, and then all of a sudden life gets back on track, and things are good again, and then you might go through a divorce, or somebody close to you dies, or you get all this up and down and up and down and up and down. And outside of COVID last year, I've just been, I don't know, my life is just too good, to the point where I can't even deal with much stress anymore. Okay. HD Chillin', thank you. Greatly appreciate it. And I guess you wanted to put your question at the top of the list, so let's get to it. Do you really see an end to all the protests? Well, of course there's going to be an end to it. But, I was called out, I think I told you about this, by somebody local, actually a pretty good friend of mine that I've known for a number of years. And she called me out on my interpretation of the protest. And I contend that she's too close to it, seeing it from her narrow point of view, and she's not looking at the grander picture. And I was vindicated a little bit this week, where the protests that are going on are actually being called unemployment protests, which is pretty much what I had said before, that you have between the lockdowns and the loss of jobs, and you get infiltrators that are stirring up trouble. It's a recipe for disaster. Now, what's actually happening? Aside from the disaster that took place in Cali for that week, things have been okay. We're back to just protests. We had a big one here in Armenia Friday. Humongous. And it went on late. and everybody went out and got drunk afterwards, enough so the mayor, and this mayor, I'm a huge fan, but he doesn't want to see that, what happened anymore again. And so he's banned drinking over the weekend because of what happened. What happened was so many people got drunk, and there wasn't like real violence. It's just a lot of drunk people out in the street making noise till 2 o'clock in the morning, keeping people awake. And it's just it was just a big ugly frat party. Some people may say, well, you're making light of a serious situation. Well, that's what you do with serious situations. But what, there wasn't it's not a violent thing here. And most of the protesters were actually protesting businesses that have been affected. They want to be fully reopened. They want to get back to normal. They don't want to have any restrictions anymore. And a lot of protests from business owners, going on. It's not the same thing. And when you have these protests that happen, annually, it's usually a couple topics, but it's not the same thing. Everybody gets out and, says what they have to say. It's been going on for about a month, and I'm not going to say that nowhere in Colombia has there been any violence, but I don't know anywhere that's had any serious problems. I look through the papers, and they're pretty good about, particularly one, the socialist paper out of Bogota. They love to throw up any little thing that happens, and it's been pretty quiet. Banning Colombians from drinking. I'm sure that'll end well. Well, no, he's not really banning it. It began with, if you're on a roadside business and people are driving, you can't sell them. You can't sell them booze. There were a few traffic incidents, but then it was extended to, for the weekend, just because, some people are getting out of hand. And before anything got serious, he said, let's just tone it down a little bit, which is not really been like him. He's all for personal freedoms, but, I think he's just saying, let's not be another Cali. Let's not, ignore what's happening until it does get out of hand. And so, he's dialed it back. But, what happens whenever they do that is some liquor stores say, yeah, the higher end ones, but if you go to the the smaller tiendas and barrios, they're going to sell you whatever you want anyway. So I don't know how effective it is, but, that's something that happened, made the news. The protests are probably not going to end, but they're so. For example, this last week, in the newspaper, a schedule was put out. Okay, protests in Circassia, they're going to meet at such and such at this time. In Armenia, they're going to meet at the Gold Museum. They were also going to meet, I forget where, a couple different barrios, and they would march until they got to Bolivar Plaza. It was all timed, it was all scheduled, it was all planned throughout Alcandillo. It's that way so that, if you need to drive somewhere, for example, where they're going to be, and you can, take an alternative route. And so they make it as painless as possible. It's not like some, just crazy thing where, there's mobs of people running rampant and doing whatever, they feel like. It just isn't working that way. What happened in Cali was really out of character and was a surprise, but then you learn, what actually took place there, and it made more sense. When you have people that are not from those neighborhoods, they don't really care if they destroy them. But the people in those neighborhoods, of course they care. My friend in Armenia said Armenia is calm now. Armenia's been calm from the beginning. It's been peaceful. It's been quiet. protests don't mean violence. Violence can happen, but here in Armenia, they have protests every year, a couple times a year. And I've told you before, and I've showed you videos. One 2 years ago, I did video and showed a marching band and people dancing, as they're going down the street and they're dancing and laughing. And, that's the character of what usually happens here. Now, it's been more serious this year because unemployment is way more serious. In Canada, the media reports on issues in Africa, Middle East, Israel, and Palestine. The rest of the world doesn't exist. Well, I'd rather have that, because when Kali was going on, the misreporting throughout the world, the calls for the United Nations to come in and all of this stuff, it was just crazy. It was ludicrous. It was just crazy. Just crazy. Here in Helsinki, media reported about Kali. Yeah, I wonder, they show Kali and then they translate it to all of Colombia. Somebody sent me a message. They're in the United States, and they said, we're worried about coming to Colombia now. And I said, what have you been contending with for the past year? Would you have? How was Portland? How many shootings were in Chicago this weekend? And it so happened this was last weekend. Turned out there were 38 shootings, last weekend in Chicago. Baltimore, you go down the list and name every major city in the United States except, in Texas or Florida. But, on the coast cities, they're just endless riots and statues getting torn down, fire bombings taking place. This is not that. This is not like that. Think of what's happening here more like the protests that took place in the 60s. Now, there were some riots, but the riots were something else. But you had protests that took place. So what were they doing? They're going around with, peace, 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 putting flowers in the guns of the National Guard and like that. It's more along those lines. Matter of fact, they were giving flowers out a couple of weeks ago. UN is useless. Well, I won't disagree with that. Hey, Lauren, try again. Try again. Hey, Lauren. All right. Anything of interest? Any interesting topics? My friend Marshall, looks like he's taking a little break. I'm not surprised. He set himself out a schedule of doing a video every day, and even with a video editor, that's not a sustainable thing. You're going to get burnt out real quick. I don't do that. I'll do, the live on Sunday, and then on average, I do 2 videos a week aside that, although lately I've been doing more like 1 a week. But, it was just, it was pretty aggressive. But he sent me a message. He says he plans on being down here within the month. Back to Pareda, or here in Armenia, I guess. Worldwide communist push, unrest happening everywhere. It's true. Try TGI Global from India. They're honest, and I don't know. News is news. Marshall didn't look too happy near the end. Well, it's not the end. He hasn't stopped doing them. But I don't know. He's an emotional guy. He rides an emotional roller coaster. Things tend to affect him more than, with me, I got a heart of charcoal. Things bounce off me. You could tell me the worst news, and it's like, is there anything else? Yeah, and other people, they're more sensitive than that. In some ways, I kind of wish I had some of that heart. Do you find the rain to be a big minus in Medellin? How bad is it? Well, I'm not in Medellin, so, but you got a lot of people there that don't seem to mind. I don't mind the rain. I particularly, I hate to say this for the millionth time, but I particularly like Armenia because most of the time you know when it's going to rain, and that's nice. It keeps everything green, and you can, have your life. Rain's a good thing. We never have water shortages. But it's not rain like I lived in Asia in different places, and we would get monsoons. You would get, rain. It would rain so hard it could peel the paint off your car. It was okay. I'm exaggerating a little, but it's not. It's not like that. Think more in the line of Florida. It's more of that kind of, spritzing often, but not downpour all the time. Charles, I watched that show. Okay, I guess I have to bug you till God knows when, but I must have deleted your reply to my email. Well, I will send it again. I will send it again. Marshall's young, his heart will atrophy. Well, he's what? He's 30 years old now. He's 30 years old. So I don't know. Would you say it's travel now? Would I say it's okay to travel? Absolutely. Sin nombre. There's that Canadian money again. But you know what? I found out? It still spends. Imagine that. Thank you. Thank you, no name. Without a name. Would you say it's travel? If you mean, is it okay to travel? I don't see why not. I don't see anything. I wouldn't travel to Cali, but I never want to travel to Cali. I don't like Cali. So, that's my personal opinion. Medellin, they're still doing lockdowns. I don't know what they're thinking. But here in Manizales, Pareda, Ibagué, here in Armenia, the coffee triangle with 4 cities, things are fine here, except for these stupid damn masks. I mean, when are they going to get off that kick? But you got to throw your mask on to go into a store. I find myself forgetting more and more. Like the other day, I left it in my car, and so I'm walking all over the place because I didn't have a mask, and nobody said anything, nobody cared. But if you're going to go into a store, somebody might give you a hard time. I don't know. They're still on that kick, but aside from that, I mean, the airport's open, everything's normal here. I can't wait to come down in July. Safe. Of course it's safe. It's always safe here. I wouldn't live here if it was unsafe. Yet another reason not to go to Cali. Cali's never been all that safe. It's just a different. You find. I think in the United States, I think we tend to forget what it was once like when we would travel across country every once in a while, or maybe not all the way across country, but different places. That was our summer vacation. We had a Rambler station, a 1956 Rambler station wagon. Had seats in the back, facing out the back. Could put the window down. You get those exhaust fumes, but who cared? And we'd ride around and we'd play stupid games like I see something green. The trees! Oh, geez! Because all there was trees, But you would go from town to town, and every place had a unique flavor to it. It was not cookie cutter back then. You didn't have chains or franchises. And so when you go into this town, they would have their own specialty, not because they were trying to be special, but because that town grew up more isolated and the people had their own tastes and likes and dislikes and their own creations. Then you go to the next town and it'd be something very different. You would have you'd have that kind of stuff happening. Punch buggy, I was kind of pre-punch buggy. So here in Colombia, while you have chains, and they've been, last handful of years, they've really been kind of spreading out, but you still have a lot of individuality in different places in Colombia. You know, that's why you hear the term paisa, the type of people that are actually from here to Medellin. Those are paisas. There's supposedly a certain type of people, certain shared cultural heritage, and there's some of that. But even that, you can divide it up into a bunch of groups. The paisas here are not the same as the paisas in Medellin. But in Cali, you go to Pasto, and it's more like Ecuador and Peru and cuy eaters, and clothes are different and they speak differently. So you have a lot of uniqueness throughout Colombia. It's one of the things I actually enjoy about traveling around in Colombia. And so, when we talk about things about safety or any of this, it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's wholly dependent on where you're talking about. So it's just something to keep in mind about Colombia. It's one of the things I really like about it. I've been to Armenia plenty of times. Love it. Absolutely. You hate Cali? Well, hate. It's not a very good word, is it? But yeah, maybe. I don't know. Hate. Let's say I just strongly dislike Cali. It doesn't suit me. But there are some cool things about Cali. That's why am I hemming and hawing? It's not for comedic effect because I would suck at that. It's because I'm really kind of stuck here. That just flashed. I'm kind of stuck here thinking about. There's a few things that are kind of cool about it. It's just that it's not enough to make me want to go there. And when I go there, I don't want to go through all the trash to get to what's cool. So I'd rather just not be there. I have 2 acquaintances in Cali, and they can't wait to get out. Language exchange partners. Well, why don't they just get out? Well, it costs money to move and like that, so maybe there's something like that. If you like heat and salsa, Cali's for you. Well, salsa is a dying breed. I think in one of Marshall's videos, because salsa, he's all about salsa. And I think one of the taxi drivers in one of his videos said that salsa is dying. And I've mentioned this in videos in the past, that something that I missed, one of the changes 20 years ago, everything was salsa. You couldn't go to a club without salsa music and amazing dancers and, just an entire culture about this. And now it's like, it's reggaeton, it's rock, it's salsa, it's kind of been left in the dust. And even the extent of dancing is not like it was. It's still a dancing culture, but now it's been, relegated more towards females. There's far less clubs. Used to be every street corner, as many tiendas as you see walking down the street, there were that many salsa clubs. It was crazy, and now it's not so much. And so Cali is known for salsa, but it just isn't so much. I think you get more of a salsa environment in New York City than you do here now, which is just kind of sad. Our buses running to Salento hotels open. Yes, and yes. Everything is normal except, you're supposed to wear that mask. My Cali friends are working towards emigrating to Canada, and I'm helping them with English. Well, bless your soul. I came in the show at Salsa Is Dying. Well, it's fade. Let's say it's fading. I don't know Dusty Salsa. I'm not going to say it's dying. It's just nothing like it was. It was so huge. It reminds me of there was a time in the U.S. for a couple years when all the rage was Coke and disco, and and then it kind of faded away until you hardly ever found disco happening, and now it's like, you're only going to find it maybe in Las Vegas as a cliche, unique. I don't know. I don't know the word, but it's kind of like that, where it's just fading away. It's no longer at its peak, and while it's still there, it still exists. It's not like it was, and it's kind of sad. Want to wasn't Kali one of the drug exporters? Heat health. All right, what am I missing here? Yes, Kali was even more of a basket case than it is today. I saw that on a program. Thankfully, disco faded. Now it's meth and tweaking. Yeah. How do we get on this stuff? Well, at least we're not talking politics this week. I honestly felt bad about that. This isn't a politics channel. I don't want it to be. I love talking about politics, but not in the context of this channel. It just doesn't make sense. My fave is cumbia. Yeah, cumbia kind of happens here. I think it's more I don't know. It's merengue was huge. The dancing in general, just kind of now it's more, like I say, it's more reggaeton, hip hop. It's just, sadly, things change. What do you recommend for single man when traveling to Armenia? Place to stay, things to do. Well, what do you mean as a single man? If you're talking a place to stay, that depends on what you plan on doing. But if you send me an email, I could, be more specific about it. But if you're looking for an active nightlife, it does tend to be a little tranquil here, because coming out of COVID, people's habits have not gotten back into shape yet. And so some of the Zona Rosa type areas, they're kind of up in the air. Like up by Portal Condillo, there used to be a number of nightclubs there, and there are other places in town. Of course, near Plaza Bolivar, there are nightclubs there. And that's, it all went away, and it hasn't, fully recovered. Now, I'm not a night person. I don't go out and party, but I got friends that do, and I talk to them every so often on this topic. And I think right now you can, if you want to find somebody to hang out with, that's no different than it's ever been. Just be careful with those masks. You never know what's behind them. But I would plan on doing more basic things, like traveling, visiting things, having somebody go with you, hang out, go to restaurants, maybe go to some of the attractions, go to the hot springs, the wholesome kind of entertainment, because those things are all definitely open, and we know where they are located. And then you won't be disappointed. And then if you meet up with somebody, they'll know if there's something happening or not, and then you could take the cue from that. Cumbia is awesome. Big in Peru. Goofy and fun cumbia, yeah. Recommendation. Come on. How is Providencia neighborhood? Any crime? Well, I'm not going to say there's no crime. I mean, every city has crime. To what extent, I don't know. Providencia, I lived right next to it. I mean, I could look out my balcony and all that I could see was Providencia. And it's basically like here, like all of the north, where crime, what crime? I mean, I say I'm sure there's crime because there's crime everywhere. I just don't know of any that's been taking place in these areas. You just don't see it. Does the bus still run to Salento? Yes. Yes, they do. All the buses are running. Everything's going fine. I'm traveling to Medellin week after next. Is it safe? No major restrictions. The restrictions change from week to week. Last I knew, they were having a certain amount of lockdowns on the weekends. Their curfews, restrictions, I think 8 p.m. You have to be back at wherever you're supposed to be. Like I say, that changes from practically day to day in Medellin. As far as, do you need COVID tests and things like that, you're going to have to check with the airlines. But right now, you have to have one within 48 hours of returning to the U.S. The U.S. is requiring them. And I believe you need it coming into Colombia as well. I didn't know anything about the hot springs. Where are they located? Okay, they're east of Pereira. What is it? Santa Rosa Cabal or something like that. I'm drawing a blank on the name. I suck with names. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. There's jeeps that run out there, but it's quite amazing. I probably should do a video. I've yet to do a video on it. Probably should do a video. The reason I haven't is if you look on the internet for Hot Springs Pereira, you're going to find dozens of videos on it of people that have done it already. Because it's pretty gorgeous. Very scenic. From here, about a little over an hour, and then you get on a Jeep, and then you run for another 40 minutes or so, something like that. It's a one-day thing. Easily one day. And it's not the only one. There's others as well, but that's the biggie. Victor, awesome. Any new shortages of note? That's a good question. Yeah, there's sporadic shortages that will happen for a day or so and then clear up. I don't really get it. It's almost like there has to be some roads closed somewhere in Colombia that's affecting, some of the supply train, but I don't know of any, and I look and I can't find it where there's any actually happening. And it's hard to believe that this disruption of, 3 weeks ago are still having residual effect. But what are some of the things? Oh my God. Avocados, imported oranges, milk. It's hit or miss on the milk. So you got different brands, and in this brand, they might only have whole milk, but they don't have the 2% or skim milk, for example. In this brand, they might only have the skim milk. It's weird. It's doesn't seem to be rhyme or reason for it, but there's shortages. But the shortages don't really have an effect because, okay, you don't have this, but so I'll get that. And it's, like they don't have this brand, but I'll get that brand. But I can't figure out, I spent an afternoon trying to understand where it's coming from. I talked to a couple people in business, and I don't really have a good answer. Have you noticed a price hike at the supermarket, restaurants, or street food? Here, not yet. Now, Alejandra told me that things are more expensive here, and the things that she was talking about weren't things that I buy. Probably caused by gas prices. Well, gas prices have been fine here. Gas prices are the same. I actually, a week or so ago, I slipped into a video gasoline price signage, and I did that a month before, and it's still running around the same amount. Remember that they have they have oil products here in Colombia, but they also have their own refineries. If I notice a price hike at supermarket, restaurants, or street food, I haven't noticed it, but it will be going up. Of that, I'm pretty sure. To what extent, I don't know. I think in the U.S. you have a lot more of a problem than we will have here. What's the best place to buy Agua hat? I have no idea. Salento has a nice selection of hats. There's a lot of shops there being touristy, and that's where I got this hat. All it means is you got good selection there. Test within 96 hours of departure to Colombia, 3 days prior departure to U.S. Okay. People keep telling me 48 hours, so I don't know. Is that you? Yeah, you say U.S. I don't know. Robert, you still on? He's made that trip a whole bunch of times. Maybe he can shed some light. Probably caused by gas prices. Okay, I addressed that. Higher here, but that was major pipeline here. Yeah. Food prices are going up big time in Canada right now without protest. What is the approximate price per gallon of gas? I know it's COP. Well, they do it in gallons, not liters. And it's, 8,900, I think. 8,900 pesos per gallon. It's where it's been for, I don't know, 3-4 years, if not longer. A little over 3 years ago, it spiked up. It got pretty high. It got up around 11 or 12,000, and big protests went on then. One time I was crossing the border from Ecuador to Colombia, and there was a million taxis that were protesting, and I put that on a video, and it was all about the gas prices. There was some issue with the refinery, but that only lasted a few months. According to Air Canada sites, 96 hours prior to crossing the Colombian border. Okay. How do you get pesos? You mentioned you have a Capital One online account. You don't have a Colombian bank account. You take your Capital One card, you put it in the ATM machine, and it gives you pesos. This is something that's worth saying again and again. You don't want to use any ATM machine. You want to use one of two particular Da Vivienda, but there is a particular way you have to answer the questions in Colpatria, and you can just do it. Those two have no fees, and you get the absolute correct worldwide published exchange rate as of the time you use the ATM. The others will nick you on the exchange rate, and they will hit you with fees. So for me, it's really just kind of a pass-through, works fine. There's nothing, I can I can use the ATM over and over and over again if I need more money, so it's just easy to do it that way. Leaving for Armenia Friday night via Fort Lauderdale. Checked the rules yesterday. Okay. All right. Does Colombia manufacture their own medicines? Yes. They've got a huge medical pharmacy manufacturing, drug manufacturing thing here. Colombia manufactures a lot of stuff, and they're big on self-sufficiency. As a matter of fact, they probably should mention that for the first time in all of Colombia, they had an event here in Armenia yesterday, and it was right at Dar Papaya, the restaurant right across the street from the mall, and I live right behind the mall, where you had vendors from every department in Quindío. So there are 12 areas or municipalities in Quindío. Were there featuring their various specialty wares. And what they're doing is they're having, I think it's going to be every week, but initially the first one, for the month, they're going to have an outdoor market, like a farmer's market, but it's going to feature specialties from all municipalities where it's been hit or miss. You kind of drive in and you rent yourself a stall. Well, now it's going to be more organized. And I found out about it after it happened. It was just finished when I read about it. So I'm gonna run right up the street and take some videos, and it was too late. My friend from Switzerland. This is me, YouTube channel. Oh, hi. How you doing? Dale, are you flying Spirit? Yeah, that's the one that flies in. It's got to be. Guayaquil. Are you in Guayaquil? My video has lots of old photos from Armenia and Quindío. Good old Spirit. Well, I would say one thing about Spirit. It's turned into quite the reliable airlines. Do people take credit cards mainly? No. Or do I need pesos for food? Yes. I will be in Poblado. Don't use your credit card. When you get at the airport, you can just walk up to the ATM there and withdraw some money. Don't bring dollars because you're going to get screwed on the exchange rate. Just use your card and use the ATM machine. If you lose your card, you can use an account like I use World Remit as my backup, and they'll send money. I think it's $1.99 to $3.99 depending for the fee, and you can pick it up at some local bank. You just go in with your ID and claim the money with the transfer number, account number, and you can pick it up that way. But yeah, ATM's the way to go. So you get here, the airport. Now the airport ATMs tend to be a bit of a ripoff. So get enough to pay for the taxi and cover your meal, your immediate costs. But then after you get there and you crash or whatever, talking about Medellin, then go to a regular ATM. Here in Armenia, it's not a big deal. In Cuenca, okay, so you're going from Cuenca to Guayaquil to Fort Lauderdale to here. I used to make that trip by bus. It cost me about $100 round trip. Have you visited Santa Marta? No. And I don't really have a strong desire to go there, but there is a place near Santa Marta that I mentioned last week, and I couldn't remember the name then, but it's kind of up. It's a small area overlooking Santa Marta with cooler weather, and that's kind of intriguing. Would a person with limited Spanish be able to get around and enjoy? I would say with limited Spanish, you can get around and enjoy all of Colombia. Just, use your hand signals and, be patient. Last time I flew Spirit, they bankrupted me, pretty much charged you for breathing. Yeah, I think if you know how they operate, then you're okay with it. Because then you can plan accordingly. But if you don't, they'll charge you for breathing. But people that fly them consistently have no issues with them because they know what to do and not to do. At the airport, you're screwed on the exchange, right? But I know there's a couple places that exchange in Armenia. Yeah, in Armenia, it's no problem here, but you don't want to bring dollars in exchange when you are here. That is a mistake unless you just like throwing money away. I don't recommend Western Union. They're thieves. They're bandits. There's no need for any of that. Just have your ATM card, walk up to the machine, and pull out your money. It's very simple to do. It's no different than wherever you're from. It's the same procedure. On the ATMs, it'll say English or Spanish, so you know what it is you're pushing. And it comes out in pesos. And if you do those two banks that I told you, now, Davivienda, there's a couple things. One, when they ask if you want a receipt, you say no. If they, well, I think that's part of the, I'm trying to remember. There's two questions. One is, do you accept the exchange rate, or do you want to see the exchange rate? And you want to bypass that, so you put no. Now, you would think that if you do that, then it's going to spit your card back out and won't give you the money because you didn't authorize it. But what happens is they're saying, is it okay if I charge you extra on the exchange rate? And you're answering no. Then what happens, it goes to the correct exchange rate and gives you the right money. And then there's another one about, do you want the receipt, or I don't remember. I'd have to see it in front of me, but you answer no. Basically, you just go no, 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 just give me the money. Now with Colpatria, you don't have to worry about it. And if they have a limited amount, because if you hit the machine when it hasn't been refilled recently or something like that, it'll automatically lower. So maybe there's an ATM that'll give you 2 million, except in this case, they're only going to give you 400,000. You go, oh, money, what am I going to do with 400,000? Well, aside from a lot, but you run that, and then you run another one. And when there's no fees, like Colpatria or Davivienda, it doesn't matter. So, well, that's the other question. Do you want to know the fee? If you put yes, they'll charge you a fee. If you put no, they will charge you no fee. So think of it as they're asking, is it okay if we charge you a fee? But that's not how it's worded. Do you want to know the fee? So it's those two things for Davivienda. If you know that, it works fine. So it's not a problem. Western Union, you got to go, they scour your ID. They want. I've bought new cars easier than exchanging money at Western Union. Plus, they hit you with a surcharge, and they really screw you bad on the rate. I mean, you might as well, here in Armenia, Bolivar Plaza, you can go there and you're always going to find somebody with a wad of money willing to exchange. And he's going to hit you for 500 or 600 pesos per dollar. Even that's better than Western Union. But I don't do it. There's no reason to do exchange. Just only come with enough dollars to take you back home for snacks or whatever it is you might need. Just go to the ATM, get pesos, you're good to go. You mentioned your car at the beginning. Seems like it did well. It did do well. I don't want to talk too much about it yet. And I have a reason. You will see at some point, but so far it's done fine. Only energies would I ever get money exchanged in an airport. Yeah, I would do. I would just get enough to pay for the taxi. Western Union is back up. Yeah, sometimes convenience can be expensive. World Remit, I've got an app on my phone, and it's a piece of cake. But you know, some people, they're more sensitive than others about expenses, and I'm very, very sensitive about expenses. How are income taxes in Colombia in regards to folks having pensions from the U.S.? Well, again, it varies from person to person, situation to situation. If you're the average that's around $1,400 a month, you don't really have to worry about it. But if there is a threshold, and it depends on a number of different things, that it may come into effect. Because it's complicated and it's a legal issue, I can't really address it because there's no blanket statement I could say that would be true. I just would say avoid getting into the tax system any way you can, because once you're in the tax system, you're in it forever. Doesn't mean you're going to get taxed forever, but now you got to constantly file. Okay, I have an account with Neobank Revolut that I use in Colombia. It's great for travel. It supports multiple currencies, and you get interbank rates, and debit cards work well at ATM. Okay. For large amounts of money, Western Union, if you want $100 ATM. Completely disagree. For large amounts of money, it's just then you're going to get screwed a large amount of money. ATM, I mean, how much do you need? I could pull, actually, my bank has no limit on how many times I withdraw. So let's say Colpatria has a limit of 5 times. I can go up and pull out 900,000 5 times. So I can pull out $1,200 worth in just that ATM. And then I could go over to the Da Vivienda and pull out, I don't know, the equivalent. So I could pull out a couple $1,000, $2,500 or more through the ATM. I mean, how much money do you need in one chunk? And if you do need it, there's money transmitters that will, like World Remit as an example, but there's others, that you set up an account, and then what happens is you take the money from your whatever your bank account is, goes into World Remit. World Remit sends it to, say, Bank Colombia, for example. And you just walk in with your ID up to the counter within seconds of you doing this transaction, and you say, I'm here to pick up $5,000 worth of pesos. And they'll count it out, and there you go. I mean, why take part of your money that's already been taxed and you worked for it and give it to Western Union? I have a problem with Western Union because last time I used them was about 4 years ago here in Colombia, and they screwed me big time because I didn't know that I should be doing it the way I'm explaining to you. In the ATM matters, I did a Bank Colombia. I'm not a fan of them. It was an emergency, and I knew not to use anything except those two, but it was an emergency, and it was the only thing available at that moment. And so I got $100, and it cost me $27 to pull out that $100. That was Bank Colombia. between the fees and getting screwed on the exchange rate. Western Union's worse. So, I mean, it's not like we're not talking dollars. We're talking some real serious money. And if you make that $1,000, then, you could be giving away hundreds of dollars. It makes no sense to me. World Remit is a bomb. Low fees, always reliable. Exactly. And they're not the only one. I just happen to like them. You find something that works, you stick with it. But there's another one, I think it's called Zoom, maybe. I don't know. There's a bunch of them that are dirt cheap. Don't you have to be a resident to open a bank account? Well, why would you want to open a bank account? Santa Marta is hot and dry. It's a nice beach town. I've got relatives that live there. Well, my ex-wife, Colombiana, her brother and his wife and kids live there. I like it for a beach day. Yeah. Thank you for good advice handling money in Armenia and Colombia, because many foreigners have bad experiences. Yeah, because they don't know. I've had bad experiences. That's why I'm telling you, I've made the mistakes and I've found ways to not make the mistakes. And that's part of what this channel is for, to tell you things that, hey, you can do what you want to do. It's your money, it's your life. You can do whatever makes you comfortable. But I'm telling you that I've been down those roads and I found that these things work great. I'm not saying it's the only thing that works. No, you're talking about a Revolut account. That could be awesome. I don't know about it. But what I do know is that Capital One 360 account works in the ATMs without fee. I don't have to do a constant every month say that I'm in another country. It's pretty seamless. They don't charge me any kind of fees on the account. And it really doesn't get any better than that. How do people usually pay their rent? How I usually pay it, and what is typical, is you get their bank account. My landlord, his bank is Davivienda, which is right here in the mall. So when it's rent day, I walk up, I go to the ATM, I pull out the money to pay the rent and whatever other things. I walk into Davivienda. I always pay 3 weeks ahead so that they continue to love me. And I just show them the account number. They pull it up. They confirm, is this, give me his name. I go, yep, that's it. What's the amount? I stumble over the Spanish pronunciation for the amount. And they say, okay, give me a receipt. I take my what's up. I take a picture before I even leave the bank. I take a picture of the receipt. I send it to him. Everything's done. He sends me, these, oh, thank you so much. You're awesome. And remember that whenever I fall in hard times. How do you extract money for an initial deposit and rent? How the lease and contract work? The same way, the ATM. I mean, the thing is, let's say your rent is $300. You got a nice place, you're in the north, you're in Armenia. Mine is not quite $300, but, and I got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in this beautiful place. But let's say you're spending $300. Maybe you want to be a real high roller, and maybe you're going to spend $400 a month for a penthouse. And let's say you end up paying a month deposit, $800. I just got through telling you that I can go to one ATM and pull out $1,200, no problem. So, and then tomorrow you go out and pull another $1,200, no problem. Or you can walk over to another ATM. That's why I'm saying, unless you're buying a car, and even then, I mean, you're not buying a car this minute. You're going to look and you're going to spend a few days. So just go to the ATM every day. Take some money out. Take it home. Put it in a lockbox or something. You know how those lock boxes work. Make sure you study the Colombian dollar bills. There's a couple that look alike. Yeah, their money could be a little confusing, but you also want to counterfeit counterfeiting is an issue. Now, you don't, I shouldn't say you don't, but I've never heard of, and it's common sense, it probably wouldn't be coming through an ATM. You're more apt to get it like in a taxi cab or change in a tienda or something like that. I've run into it in 4 years one time. It was a 10,000 peso bill, and it was a taxi driver that gave it to me. And I didn't realize it, and I handed it to another taxi driver, and he caught it, and he wouldn't take it. And I said, "Oh, it was your buddy, it was your partner that gave it to me." He laughed, and I laughed because, ridiculous argument. But how do you extract money? How the lease and contract work? Lease contract, same thing. It works like anywhere. You get one, you look it over. If you see provision you don't like, you ask them to change it. I've yet to do a lease where I haven't made at least one change to it. The one that there's two things that I think you want to watch for. One is an automatic rollover. It's typical to see it. Your lease will automatically roll over unless you give 2 months notification that you plan on moving. Well, I think that's too much. It's like I'm fine with a month, but 2 months, maybe I'm not really thinking about it then. And by the time I do, it's like, oh, you're already renewed automatically. So that's one I look for, and I've made that change. But it's like anything. You look at it. Some things maybe they don't want to change. Some things they're willing to change, and you just go from there. You sign it at a notary. So you go together. You go into the notary. You pay, I don't know, the equivalent of $1 or $2. They'll notarize your signature, and you're good to go. Western Union would not allow me to transfer money from the U.S. to Colombia because they blacklisted Colombia for what? I hate Western Union. Okay, there's that hate word, but it actually applies to Western Union. Now, I will say that I have a Western Union account. I have a Western Union card. I think I threw it away, but I've got one. And I use them fairly often in the United States. But here, they take advantage of the situation. They screw you every which way. I use Dolex to send large amounts before we go down for a visit. My wife's best friend works for Davivienda, so we send it to her. Dolex only charges about 7 pesos less than the actual exchange rate. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Just use ATM with a Capital One 360. Works almost everywhere. I've yet to find where it hasn't worked, so it's been great for me. MoneyGram works fine from Helsinki to Colombia. I would be concerned about, the high. Here's the thing. If you're getting hit with some pretty high rates and you're not getting the correct exchange rate, just understand this, that there are companies out there doing it that will give you the correct exchange rate and aren't charging crazy high fees. So if you're happy paying those fees, that's great, but understand you don't have to. Check this out. I think we've got captions that are working, but I'm not positive. But you might have to have your closed caption thing on. So, all right, let's skip that. I don't know if I may not have even turned it on for this video. What happens if your rent is not paid on time? Landlord will kick you. I mean, it's no different than anywhere. I mean, he's not going to kick you out in that moment. You're going to talk to him, and there's rental protections, but you're not going to be very. I mean, you don't want to have that. You don't even consider that. Don't do it. Pay your rent on time. But anywhere you are, if you don't pay your rent on time, you're not going to have the best of relationships with your landlord. Sorry to keep bothering you with questions, but I can open a Capital One in America and it works at Colombian ATMs. Correct. What happens if rent? Okay, answered that. Hate equally, Lauren. Show the views from the window. I want to see my beautiful deal. I can't because I've got it actually locked down, and I can't do it. There's times when I was doing this on my laptop, but we also had a lot of issues. I finally have good sound and good clarity, and everything's working good, and it's because I've kind of locked things down so that I'm not constantly changing settings. And so it's actually being done in a studio now. Maybe when I get the second camera going, I can go back and forth to that. Borrow bank, no fees. Thank you again. Okay. Well, how are we doing for time? All right, we've run pretty well for the day, and I think we're kind of, our theme today was money. I think we're going to call it here. I'll give you last call for a question beyond money. If you got an interesting question, we'll take one more before we call it a day. And I want to thank you guys. The contributions I got today. I mean, I wasn't even going to share. I wasn't sure I was going to survive that first one. But Alfredo, HD Chillin, Sin Nombre, and Victor, thank you very much. Would you say women are more approachable in Armenia, easily to make friends? Well, all I could say is what I always say. I'm a fat old man, and I have absolutely no problem meeting people, making friends. If I, like when I wanted to go to lunch, it is no problem for me to find somebody to jump in the car with me and go to lunch with me. And I've had a couple girlfriends, over the course of my stay. It may be one of the easiest things to do here. So, are women more approachable in Armenia? More approachable than what? I mean, I think if you can't find yourself a friend or girlfriend here, then maybe you can't anywhere. I mean, if I can, why can't you? 9 out of 10 of you are going to be, more handsome and more fit than I am. Lauren, you're personable. I have personality like a rattlesnake. Well, that is something that we've talked about a few weeks ago. You really need to be a good person. They can read it. They don't want to be with somebody that's not a good person. And, if you're a snake in the grass, you're probably not going to get yourself a girlfriend. It's not about money. Laura's nicer in person. I don't know. It's like I turn cold pretty easily. Are the theaters open? Yeah, but I've said that if I want to watch something, I watch it right here in my apartment. Especially now that I got that big living room TV that I wanted forever. Thank you, Trump COVID money. It was a 55-inch TV on sale. It was somewhere around $300. It was under $400. Delivered and set up with a wall mount. It's brand new. Thing's awesome. So if I want to watch a movie that's in the theater, I can pull up Kodi and watch to my heart's content. But there's so much. I mean, here's the thing about the movie theaters. I guess I should mention this. They love to form lines at the movie theater. You go to the theater, and it doesn't matter what time. They start early, and there's always this big long line or lines. I don't like lines. Like I said, I can pull it up on my own TV. But I don't know. For them, I think it's part of the movie experience to be in line waiting for something good for a change. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of lines, and they always have lines. They like gentlemen. That's absolutely true. They like gentlemen. They like a man. They don't, they're not looking for a beta male. I mean, you don't want to be some machismo jerk, but you want to know your own mind and not be some wishy-washy, punk. That doesn't impress. I want a gay husband from Armenia. He can teach me Spanish. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's possible. It's nothing I can, there's nothing I can shed as far as light goes on that because it's not my world. I don't know. I'm ready to retire. Can I live with $4,500 per month? That's way too much money. If you got $2,000 a month in Armenia, you're gonna live like, I hate to say you're gonna live like a king because you're not gonna live like a king, but Jesus, $2,000 a month. I wish I had $2,000 a month, and I live damn good. I have no regrets. It's I can't even imagine. You're probably going to fall into a tax bracket. What you want to do before you come here is figure out how you can protect that money because you just don't need that kind of money coming to you. Put it in a savings account. So if you've got, for example, if you've got Social Security and you've got another pension, report the Social Security and the other pension, you just keep that in the United States in a savings account. Let it build up because you're not going to be spending that kind of money. Maybe occasionally you will, but I don't know how you're going to spend that money on a month-to-month basis. I mean, if you're giving money out to everybody you see on the street, which certainly wouldn't recommend, but you're not going to go through that kind of money. So, can you live on it? Yeah. Keep it more around 2,000 or under, and put the rest in a savings account in the United States. Avoid the tax situation. That's how you want to do that. Is furniture expensive? Well, how long is a string in my pocket? It all depends. Furniture does not have to be expensive. If you're cheap like me, you buy, a living room sofa, 2 stuffed chairs, a coffee table, and an end table, and I don't remember now. It was like $125 delivered, but it was used. Still using it today. But you can go out and spend $2 million on a sofa. $500. But here, that's a lot. You can have. There's a lot of artisans and upholsterers and woodworkers. You can actually have your furniture custom made, and it's going to be relatively inexpensive compared to what you see as prices from outside of Colombia. It's safe in an American bank account. Why not? Well, I can understand your concern, but it's going to be as safe there as it would be here. But there, it's money that's already been through the tax system. You don't have to account for it. Here, it's going to be treated like new money, and you're going to get taxed on it. I would hardly say that's safe. It's like, why voluntarily give chunks of it away all the time for nothing? How much does a housekeeper cost in Armenia? Couldn't tell you. Can't afford one. I can tell you that it's pretty easy to find somebody to clean your apartment for 20 to 30,000 pesos. They'll come and spend 4 or 5 hours scrubbing it down. It's pretty easy. If you move into a building, just say, hey, do you know anybody? And they will. They'll know people. As a matter of fact, sometimes people that clean the building will work out an arrangement to come after they get off work to come and clean your apartment. How about a live-in maid? How much does that cost? Um, okay. You're probably not going to find many that are interested in being live-in maids here. People tend to be um, pretty independent. If you're talking about just as a maid, so for one, that could be a little problematic. You could have somebody come as a maid and assistant like that for like a 8-10 hour 5 or 6 day a week gig, and that'll probably cost you maybe 1,000,000 pesos a month. So how much is 1,000,000 pesos a month? You figure it out. Pretty inexpensive if you need something like that. Lauren, if you have a housekeeper, I'm shutting off my membership. Yeah. Yeah, I have no housekeeper. I'm the housekeeper. Before I did this, I hung up the clothes that I put in the washing machine last night because I forgot to put them up on my drying rack. And I washed dishes from yesterday, and I swept a little bit and then prepared for the video. So, yeah, that's how it goes. Okay. But hey, if I got enough contribution that gave me that kind of lifestyle, hey, don't hate me for that. All right. That's it. I went on 10 minutes longer. So we're going to call it a day here. HD chillin'. Appreciate your work and information. Definitely appreciate you. You're there practically every week throwing me something, and I really appreciate it. And it's you guys and regular subscribers like Charles, Robert. There's people behind the scenes that contribute every month also that doesn't come up on here, but it goes into the membership account. And I really appreciate that. It's why this keeps getting better. I've got a viewer that he used to be really critical about. He would point out things that I knew. Hey, your sound is really bad. Your picture, it's really bad. Hey, this is bad and that's bad. And it's like, yeah, I know. It's, well, why don't you do such and such? Because that costs money and I don't have the money to do it yet. Well, we have what we have because you guys contributed to that, and I put it to the things that I tell you about. And that's how this works. Okay, enough of that. You've heard enough of me. It's time to go have a good Sunday. Till next week. We'll see you.